denying us that and trying to erase it as if black people are not the blueprint needs to stop. And I'm here today as an alt girly, as an eclectic girly, to say stop erasing black people from the alt scene because we are the blueprint. Hello. Welcome back. It is your girl Autumn Marie here, and we are back with another video. If you're new here, welcome. How are you doing? This is a segment on my channel that I call Honest Conversations, where I talk about anything and everything, baby. I'm a certified yapper, and we're about to get into it. If you've seen the title, yes, we are talking about why black people are the blueprint for the alternative aesthetic, lifestyle, etc. I'm about to get into my opinion, my take on it. It is my opinion, but I feel like I do be coming with some facts. So if you want to stick around and check it out, hit that bell notification for next time when I post another video. And you want to check out my other videos, you can go into my playlist that I have up. It's called Honest Conversations with other videos where I talk about other different topics. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. So first off, I want to say black people are the blueprint for a lot of things. But there is one thing that I've been noticing when it comes to certain aesthetics, when it comes to certain topics, and alternative is one of those. I consider myself an alt person. I consider myself very eclectic, and I don't stray into a lot of the norms, and I've always been this way. Has it taken time to fully come into my own style? Yes, but I feel as a black person, regardless, we are alternative. We are the reason for alternative. If you look up the definition, which I'm gonna try to put up out of nowhere, the definition of alternative, have that up, and you will understand why black people fit that description. If you look in the history of where the alternative umbrella, to be honest, is an umbrella full of things, where that's started and how that started and why, and how it is basically people being outside of the norm, outside of what society views as normal, as what this is supposed to be. A lot of people in our alternative community stray away from that, and they're more radical, and they're more fight the power type of people. It's more about, calling out the ways that people are excluded or people are being mistreated or oppressed. That is where a lot of the alt world started from, and that is the main reason why I say there's no way you can erase black people from the alt world. And I've noticed that has been a thing. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. It has been a thing where I've noticed that when certain people call themselves alternative, you want to call a certain artist or certain person alternative, you'll get looked at, frowned upon, especially if they're black. Black people get erased from a lot of stuff, and you can't erase black people from the alt lifestyle when that is literally our life. And what I mean by that is, when you really think about what alternative means and why it started, that has been black people's story from day one. We have always been outside the norm. Everywhere we go, we are other. We are the outsiders everywhere we go. We are put into this alternative space. People don't want to classify what black people, especially black women, what we do as alternative, because it's been put in this position of being ghetto. Baby, ghetto is alternative. Ghetto is alt. Okay? Different ghetto styles and the way that black women especially dress, that is alt. Earthy black women with head wraps, that is alt. All of these aesthetics are all under the alt umbrella, and I feel like it gets erased. When people think of alt, they automatically assume white people in the scene community, white people who are punk or goth. That's a part of it, but that's not a huge part of it. There's so many others. It's not even just with black people. There's other scenes like Harajuku and stuff in a lot of Asian cultures. But even in the Asian cultures, in their alt scenes, there are black culture is in there too. That's another thing. Our culture is in so many aspects, so many areas, even down to the music. When you think about radical, baby, I can't help but to be a black person is radical. Okay, I can't help. I've been radicalized since a little girl. When I got told about my color, you know what I'm saying? My parent, my mom, my dad, they were radical. Black people, that is in our DNA to be that way. So I think it's just getting erased and getting pushed out seems crazy to me, because without us, you probably wouldn't have this scene. You know what I'm saying? We are the movement. Think about the Black Panthers and how our hair were defying gravity, and it was being looked at as what it, you know what I'm saying? We've always been the alternative. We've always been other. We've always been pushed out as something opposite from what is normal. Black people are not, unfortunately, when they say what's normal in society, what the norm is, unfortunately, Black people are not put into that category. I don't care how they look. You can have a Black person that tries to look exactly like what society say you're supposed to look like, and they will still get othered. Black people are never, just our skin alone makes us alt. Our skin alone, and I don't care how that sounds, who gets offended by that, but our lifestyle and the way we've grown up is already othered and alt. We have a community and a telepathic way of talking to each other that only we get. You know what I'm saying? We have a way of moving and the way we do things that is in our culture, from our style, from the way we fight for our freedom and fight for our civil rights, from the way that we do our hair, from the way that we talk, from our music. We're the reason why the alt community has the music it has, because rock and roll came from us. And getting erased out of a scene where the main music anthems that you use in your community is from us, derived from us, and you want to erase us out of that scene? Crazy to me. That's crazy. Like, it doesn't make sense to be racist and be alt. It never made sense to me when people who, and I'm not saying that all, I am not saying all, I'm talking about a certain group, I'm talking about a certain types of people. That's where I'm talking to her. So if you are a white person or not, non-Black person who is alt and you are not racist, I'm not talking to you, sweetie. You're good. So now if you get all jumpy about me saying this and I'm not this, pot calling the kettle. I'm just saying, a hit dog is gonna holler. But I'm letting me know I'm not talking to everybody in the scene, everybody who's all, every white person that's alt or non-Black person that's alt. It's just all racist. Not what I'm saying. But I will say there is a known thing about what people try to gatekeep and what people try to be like, oh no, you can't do. A lot of people try to do that towards Black people, but the thing is, you wouldn't have what you have without us. I don't care how that sounds. You can sit up there and give all your little jokes and say, oh, you one of those weed was kings. Bitch, I don't care. I'm gonna have to bleep out that cuss word I just said. But I get very as a person who identifies as alt, because I can go from so many different aesthetics. I don't have one set. So I call myself eclectic. That's where I am in the umbrella is very eclectic. But Black people in alt, I have it's my heart. It tugs in my heartstrings to see how different and how experimental and how creative we can be. And for us to get erased in that scene, to finally have something that can define us and be pushed out of it, it does something to me. It does. But yeah, for some examples that I can say that I think the time where Black people really were at their peak when it came to being alternative definitely was, I'll say the 60s for sure, when it came to the Black Panther Party, when it came to dressing in that all black, when it came to afros and wearing our hair and being outside of the norm. You know what I'm saying? We were ostracized and pushed to the side. I think that was the time where the alt really started to come about, when that perspective, all of that came out and being radical. I feel around the 60s, and when that was going on around that time, for sure. Then I feel where the fun side of being alt, which is from the way you dress, which is from the aesthetics and how we look, I feel the best times for that for Black people was definitely the 70s, 90s, and probably early 2000s. Yeah, I'll say that. I will say Tumblr era. That's my era. we was coming in on the alt scene, locking it down. Okay, back when we was, you know what I'm saying? When we was all out here, Afro punk and all of that coming out. I will say we brought it back, and we've been bringing it back since. And I've been loving seeing all the alt girls out, all the different types of alt girls, not even just in Black America, but just the diaspora, just everybody in other countries, everywhere, kind of expressing. Because that's another thing, Black people's alternative lifestyle doesn't just start in Black America either. I will say we've held it down, but it doesn't just start there. Being African in general, from the way we did our hair, from the way that we came out into this world, the way we presented ourselves with thinking of Egyptian times, thinking of South Africa, Nigerians, West. Like, if you really think about how Africans move, it's alternative. So I feel like, as a Black person, when our ancestry comes from that time, comes from a certain part, of course I ain't got no choice but to be as eclectic and different as I am, because I feel like that's just in our bloods. We outshine, we always doing the most. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. We are always kind of like for that. We're very confident in who we are. We're very like, we ain't taking no ish. We're very like, we don't like to see other people get oppressed, especially with what we know we've been through. We are very out there like that, and I feel like there's no way you can erase us out of that. And there's like so many Black people that I can think of that I just like, artist wise, that I can say are just alt. Like, when I think of artists that are alt from 70s, like the Funkadelics, a lot of people know Patti LaBelle. Like, Patti LaBelle, I feel like she was alt. Like, Patti LaBelle, yes, from that hair alone, alt. People like Shaka Khan, she was a Black Panther. Like the 70s and the 90s, for sure, just so many different alt people, like just from the disco era, and Black people starting that. And then I will say the 80s is reason why I don't say the 80s is because I feel like everybody was just off their rockers at that time. I feel like the 80s solidified it not for Black people, but I think the 80s like alternative scene, that is where kind of like the in Great Britain and people from over there start coming. Like, I feel like the 70s, yeah, but like kind of more into the 80s, that's where punk and goth and all of that kind of really took its form, and then traveled into the 90s and really just took over. But I'm only speaking from Black people, and I will say the 70s and 90s and early 2000s, I think Black alternatives were really at their peak. 70s, I mean, the hair alone, like the whole hippie thing, like that like the reason why a lot of like white people were getting called hippies was because of them hanging out with majority of Black people. If we really think about it, was because of them, it was because they were doing things that was seen, more on the othered side, and most of the times Black people were othered, and because they were more hip, that's why hippies more hip to what Black culture was, and more hip to Black culture and Black things like Soul Train and just the way they dress and the way they dance, just from like the artists that I named, Funkadelics, from Confunction, from the Commodores, like all of that, style and grooviness. That is where hippies come from, and I think like that was like the start of it. And because of how like different Black people were and how other we were at the time in the 70s, so when white people were hanging out with them, you got automatically, oh, you're hip, so you're a hippie. And the marijuana, a lot of people were high, and not just on marijuana. Maybe they had the amount of drugs. I will say that's another thing about alt scene and community that I feel like is the darker side of it, is a lot of people in the community, because of what we face in this world of being other, we can lean on to drug abuse, drug use. I will put that out there. I'm not saying we all just these addicts, no, because it does leave a bad taste and makes us look a certain way. But I think we can't not acknowledge, and in the Black community especially, we can't not acknowledge the amount of abuse when it comes to drugs. And I feel like, 70s, crazy time for that. But anyway, yeah, and mind you, I dabble in, heaven's good lettuce. I don't like to call it devil's lettuce. Heaven's good lettuce, okay? Because it sends you on a higher vibration. But I think the abuse part is where it's like, all right now. Just saying. But yeah, I think like the 70s was a crazy time for the rise of the alternative. I feel like for Black people, for the Black alternatives, kind of started in the 60s, then transitioned into the 70s. And then I think the 90s, like I said, 80s for Black people was just, it was alternative. It was very crazy alternative, but it's not my favorite. Okay, it was a blur. It was a lot going on. It was just, I think everybody named Mama was alternative and trying to figure out what are we doing. I feel like there was no normal society. Anytime I look at anything back in the 80s, I'm confused. Like, what was that? I think the music was great. It brought hip hop, which that's another thing that I consider alternative hip hop. A lot of people don't ever want to put hip hop in the alternative scene, but you can't deny hip hop. You cannot deny the impact of hip hop in the alternative spaces. Okay, you can't deny, even now when we have rock and hip hop being fused together and that being the norm, you can't deny the impact of hip hop. Hip hop, what is alternative? Hip hop is something that was othered and put, like, we are just now having rappers get big rewards for hip hop. What Kendrick is doing, that is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't just start with him, but the fact that this is where we're at now, when at one point hip hop was seen as this, you can't tell me hip hop ain't alternative. Okay? Can't tell me hip hop ain't alt. But that is also why I say, like, you know, the 90s especially, I feel like the 90s, especially when it came to fashion and the way we did things, like the 80s, yeah, it kind of started, like the late 80s started into that, in the early 90s with the gold and the grill, you know, with having gold teeth and with, you know, the hair, and then the 90s just took it over. 90s just took over when it came to, I feel like when I think of like how Erykah Badu looked back then, Lauryn Hill in the 90s, the Brat alone, like that's alternative. Like, she's so, I love it. It was just like TLC, the group Black, like, and that was derived from Left Eye, who I feel like is the ultimate black alt girl, and creating this cool group of black alt girls. Come on now, like, just from the way, you know, rappers were, how radical, like people like Tupac, how radical he was, you know what I'm saying, like how radical a lot of artists were back then. And not even just like Missy Elliott, she was doing something totally different from what other people were doing. Like, she's the reason why people go all outlandish on their music videos now, because she was doing that, you know what I'm saying. People like what else I could think of that I could say that's all back then. There's so many others. Like, even going into the 2000s, Khaleesi's mother. Khalees, I love Khalees, okay? My favorite song by her is Shooting Stars and I Just Want to Get Along With You. Like that. Khalees, like early 2000s Solange. A lot of people don't pay attention to how Solange was back then. Like, Solange we got now was because of Solange in the early, you know what I'm saying, with Embrace. That Solange, dope. When she did I Decided and Tony, like, okay, that's the reason we got the Solange we got now. But people like Jill Scott in the early 2000s, alt. A lot of people don't ever consider her. She's alt. You can't tell me that lady got in that music video wearing what she wearing with her hair the way it was. You can't tell me that wasn't alt. That was an alt hairstyle. Okay? She was taking long walks with that hairstyle. All right? And other names I don't want to forget, especially in the 2000s, Nicki Minaj, alt. Yeah. Need I say more? Nicki Minaj, alt. Okay. Rihanna, alt. Rihanna, like, her impact in like the black alt scene, especially like when it got into the mid 2000s, like 2010s era, when it was Tumblr and just when Twitter just first emerged and the girls were like, you know, really trying to be different. Rihanna said that, baby, shaved head, shaved side of your head, you know what I'm saying, from a mullet. She was rocking mullets. Like, unapologetic Rihanna is probably my favorite. Like, she got really alt, I want to say, in the rated R era. It started a little bit in Good Girl Gone Bad, where she was trying to let it be known, like, hey, I am different. I'm not just this island girl. I do want to do more than just what I'm doing. And then rated R came, and from there just took off. Okay, Rihanna, alt. Like, and a lot of people won't agree with me, but there are times when I personally feel like Beyonce truly wanted to be a neo soul artist when she first came out, and she would have been considered alt. Because if you look at her older pictures from when she first went solo, that was a neo soul girl. I'm gonna show a picture up here. That's a neo soul girl. She wanted to be on that and the way she was singing when she did that song with Bilal in the Fighting Temptations movie, she wanted to be on that type of timing. But they was like, baby, we're not about to let you do that. We're not about to let you be. No. And it worked for her, but that's also why we get who she is now, stepping into multiple different genres. Beyonce's music, I wouldn't say her as an artist is alt, like a style wise, and but she is alternative because she has spoken out. You know what I'm saying? She is a little bit more radical than people want to believe. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, her music, if you actually, I'm a person that listens to her music. I'm a beehive. You listen to that discography. Look at the way she does her promos. It's given AHS. You want to tell me that ain't an alt woman in disguise? I know my people when I see my people. Okay? But yeah, like there's so many, and that's why you get the people that we have today. Like, and now we have people like Doechii and Doja Cat and Tia Corinne and Rico Nasty. Like now we have all these dope people that are able to express themselves because of those times. And denying us that and trying to erase it as if black people are not the blueprint needs to stop. And I'm here today as an alt girly, as an eclectic girly, to say stop erasing black people from the alt scene because we are the blueprint. And yeah, there you have it. So that's the end of my video. I don't have much else to say. I don't know if my video made sense or not. I also am very on a higher vibration. So I just started talking about something I love because that's what I do here. If you like what I'm talking about, if you like just seeing another person have the same ideas as you or just talk, or if you don't like, whatever, say what you're going to say in your comments. I don't care. Subscribe to my channel. I'm sorry, I'm just being a little goofy. But subscribe to my channel and check me out for my next video. Click that notification bell like I said earlier so you can be tuned for the next videos that I have. And thank you for watching. Bye.